How we doing, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us once again for another review for Saw, leading up to Spiral from the Book of Saw, which is going to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, director of Saw 2, 3, and 4, featuring Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. Today, we are talking about Saw 3D, the supposed final chapter, which was released in 2010, featuring Costas Mandylor, Shawnee Smith, Tobin Bell, as well as many other people, including Betsy Russell, who still cannot act for shit. It is directed by Kevin Greutert, and I am joined today by Ken Sledge from Sledgehammer Horror. How you doing, buddy? It's good to have you here on the channel.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited. Become a really good friend of mine after you were on my channel, and this is something we knew that we were going to end up doing because of our joined love of the Saw franchise. So it's exactly such an honor for me to be here with you, man.
No, thank you so much for joining me. As you said, due to our joined love of Saw, when we were over on your channel on the My First Horror Movie podcast, we had a great discussion about that first Saw movie, and we discussed a little bit afterwards, after we finished recording, about our combined love for the Saw series as a whole, the great, the bad, and you name it. Like, every movie we both agree to have their enjoyable natures within the film, even the bad ones.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they're enjoyable just to watch, especially, like, say, the bad ones. Even in a marathon format, you can watch them and just kind of forget them. But there's something in each Saw movie that's enjoyable, and that's why I contacted you and was like, your choice of movie, which one do you want to review if you want to be on the channel? And you chose Saw 3D, and I am still questioning as to why.
It is funny because I don't hate this movie as much as other people. It's in my bottom third of the Saw franchise, but it is not at the bottom.
Okay.
I think there's a lot to this movie that you can find positives about, and I'm really excited to talk about some of the positives that I find in this film.
Awesome. I unfortunately am the complete opposite. I hate almost everything about this movie, and that includes the traps, as a matter of fact. I do think that this movie has some of the weakest traps in the entire series. Like, yeah, they have their benefits into them, and one of them in particular I actually do fucking love. And that's the one we will talk about with the fishhook. That's a great trap, and we will talk about that. But I don't like many things about this movie, ranging from the performances, the awful slasher tone this movie takes with Hoffman, and the very cheap look of it, whether it be the practical blood being pink and the whole, like, visual aesthetic with the overly saturated and, I don't know, cheap look to it. It looks like a made-for-TV movie that was shot on, like, an iPhone 3.
And see, I don't mind the, Hoffman slasher angle. I think that's something that, obviously, I love these movies because of the psychological and the gore, but to bring that new aspect into this film, I think, is something that, that was one of the shots in the arm to me, that they went a new direction with this film with that. And there's a couple things in this film, like we'll talk about Bobby, a couple things with him that I think was really rejuvenating the franchise. I mean, obviously, was supposed to be the final chapter, but the way that this whole ties into the first one, I'm very excited to talk about.
Awesome, man. And one thing I think we can also agree on and mention is the fact that one thing that really worked for this movie, even though the performance isn't good, the incorporation of previous horror actor Chad Donella, who plays the detective in this movie, who was also in Final Destination.
Yes. Even though he's a smug little shit.
He just pervs on women the entire time, whether it's other, detectives in the precinct, and perving on Jill Tuck the entire time. It's very, very slimy, and he's not really good in this movie. And I'm like, you go off at Hoffman for killing a guy in an alley and saving your life, but you're going to perv and basically be very creepy to everyone else around you. It just doesn't work, and the performance isn't great, but I think that's due to the writing.
And that's something we've talked about. The writing for this film isn't the best. But some of the little things in this movie, one scene in particular that I don't think is talked about a lot, is when John Kramer goes to Bobby's book signing.
Oh, I do actually really enjoy that scene.
Yeah, and he's just telling him, like, in a roundabout way, like, you've never been in a trap.
It's the same case of, like, how John warned William Easton in Saw 6 with, like, the whole company thing before he does that hilarious line, Piranha.
But it's funny because I love the piranha line, by the way.
It's really funny. It's really funny, and I kind of love it because it's very cheesy, but only Tobin Bell can pull a line like that off.
Tobin Bell, even with Saw 3D, Tobin Bell is
the best part.
Best part of this film. Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. But we were talking about traps and kills. I think you're right. I think this, when it comes to the traps, probably is the worst in the franchise. Mm-hmm. One of them, and I don't even know if you really consider it a trap or not, but we're kind of moving ahead in the movie a little bit. One of the worst parts of this movie to me is the fucking machine gun that just pops up, and they're just looking at it like if a fucking
Doc
gun. Yeah, get the fuck out of the way.
Not only that,
they're staring at it.
How did you set up this fucking Gatling gun? It was so funny.
And then that's just one scene that I was, even upon first watch, you're like, what's going? Come on, don't do something stupid like that.
But it's things like that. Although I hate it, I have a love-hate relationship with this movie. While I don't like basically anything about this movie, there are scenes and concepts introduced, like the whole introduction of like the Bobby's a liar, he's never been in a trap, and Tobin Bell warning him as John Kramer. Really like that scene and its execution and the concept it provides, but it's an execution later in the film where it doesn't work. But it's due to a lot of the incoherent contrivances throughout this film in regards to the traps, the narrative, and how it fucks it over when Saw 6 fixed it. That makes this a hilarious movie to watch. On an enjoyment scale, while this is easily my least favorite Saw movie in quality, it's up there as one of my favorites on a level of enjoyment, because when I watch it, it is just fucking funny.
See, one thing that I don't like about this film, and I've said this since the very first time I've seen it, like with a passion. I hate Joyce's death. Like, that made me really, really sad.
What has this woman ever done? Why is she even here?
It's so terrible, man. Like,
I understand why his friend is in there. I understand why the reporter or like the writer is in there. I understand why the businesswoman's in there. Why is his innocent wife, who knew nothing about the lies, who has done nothing wrong but support her husband and his lies of which she was not aware of, in this trap that burns her to death, and Bobby has no consequences?
Right. And the way that she gets burned, like, it's such a rough, terrible way to go out, man. Like, and like I said, I love my wife. We've been together 16 years. We've been together since high school, mm-hmm. and why would she have to, suffer for? And that's one thing that Jigsaw. Obviously, this isn't John Kramer anymore. We get that. We understand that. But come on, man, that's just too much. That was too much for me. I hated that.
The trap is just silly. Like, when you watch it, the first time I watched it, when that big dome came over Mad Max style, I kind of just went. And in like what is it, SpongeBob like eye rub, being like, am I actually fucking seeing this? Like,
right?
Because it was just so absurd and so ridiculous. And I'm like, how the fuck did Hoffman get the money as a non-trained engineer to set something like this up? Honestly, it would be over the top, but it would make sense if it was John Kramer, because he was an engineer.
Right.
Hoffman's just a police officer who learned a few things.
Right, yeah. Picked up along the way.
Exactly. Even then, he was getting it wrong. Saw 6 was like to Hoffman with Shawnee Smith as Amanda Young. You need this one rather than this one. You need this wheel to compensate for the change in friction. I'm like, Hoffman can't even get that right. How the flying fuck is he setting up this massive dome?
See, well, let's talk about, while we're on this subject of the traps,
mm-hmm.
the worst one, in my opinion, in the movie. The threesome saw kill at the beginning. Look, now there have been instances throughout the franchise where you're like, what the fuck? Why the fuck would Jigsaw care that this woman, you know what I mean? Like, why the fuck would he give a shit about this situation? Why would he care?
That I'm not gonna lie, that is my favorite scene.
Going after, the people that fucked everybody on insurance and literally took people's lives.
Yeah.
Or you labeled the 3D X-ray. You labeled the X-ray wrong, so John Kramer couldn't find out he had brain cancer. I understand that too. She was cheating, and the two guys, like, what the
guys were doing illegal things to, suffice her fucking substantial needs. Fuck off, Jigsaw. Bullshit, you're targeting these people. But I will say,
Right.
it's an awful scene. It makes no sense. It's stupid. Makes no sense in Jigsaw's morals and motives. But it's hilarious to watch. It is so much fun to watch that scene play out. And the line, "What the fuck are you doing, you assholes? I think we're breaking up with you, Dina," is just the funniest line in the entire movie. That is so funny to me. It's just the biggest middle finger that you can provide to any character out of any of these movies, with also the fakest looking torso when she gets sawed in half.
Oh god, it's awful. God,
the effects in this movie are awful.
I hate 3D. I hate it.
The intestine throwing at the fucking camera.
Yeah, or even though I love the ending. You know, Carrie Elway's just throwing the saw.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
You know, like I don't know, man. So, what is your favorite trap from Saw 3D?
The noise trap, the fishhook trap. I fucking love this trap because one thing that made a lot of the traps in the earlier Saw movies, I think, there it is. There's the the reverse bear trap. There we go.
We finally see it in action, man.
Hello, Ken. I want to play a game.
Fucking Jill Tuck. You know, like, oh my god, when we see that actually happen, I was just like, it was so worth waiting.
Something Saw fans have been waiting for 7 fucking years. 7 years and 7 films. And it looks really cool. It's actually the best looking effect in the entire movie. I'm not even going to lie. But my favorite trap is the fishhook trap. And there's a reason for that. In the earlier Saw films, in regards to the ones that, were the most intense, were the ones that had no music playing unless something was happening in the sense of, like, them in danger. In Saw 6, in regards to the respirator trap, whenever the clamp was closing in, that's when, like, a slight bit of music would play, but otherwise it's just the sound design. Whereas the same thing happens in regards to many things in Saw 1 and Saw 2 and everything. In Saw 3D, in this trap, there is no music. Even when he's pulling the hook out of her fucking throat, which, by the way, would be awful. All the people I've ever seen complain about that scene of, like, why doesn't she just shut up? You try having a hook rip your insides out to save your life. Like, shut up.
Then that's my thing. Like, dude, if I stub my fucking toe, I'm like, fuck, shit, fuck. I can't imagine having a hook ripping through my fucking insides.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on, man. Use a little bit of common sense here. Yeah, it's a movie, whatever. But, man, that's something I've always loved about Saw is how it is based in reality. Like, this shit could legit happen. This isn't a guy getting you in your nightmares or a guy that's been shot 6 times. 6 times! And
I shot him 6 times. 6 times, I tell you, he's not human.
You know, like, this is all shit that could, you could easily have a guy in a pig mask come up and fucking get you with some knockout gas and put you in a trap. So that's what I've always loved about this. And then people are like, oh, why does you just, even him, why couldn't you just shut the fuck up?
That line makes no sense for that reason, and it's the dumbest response he could have had to the situation.
Yeah, I'm mad at you because you died. Fuck you, man.
Yeah, I don't like Bobby Dagan as a character because although I like his character and concept with him being a liar, he's not likable as soon as he gets into the traps. After that, he's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he's a real piece of shit, man.
Is the most selfish son of a bitch. Like, oh, this woman's coming fucking tilting up to have her eyes and her mouth stabbed. Yes, I understand it's painful having these, like, knives and prongs in your rib cage, but I'm sure you can withstand that for a minute.
Instead of... Yeah.
Like,
but
come
here's
on.
another thing we got to talk about. Chester Bennington. Rest in peace, Chester Bennington.
Yes. Oh, man. I miss him and everything. And he, honestly, besides Tobin Bell, gives the best performance in this entire movie.
That's another one that, like, you always... I hate to sound cold and dark, but you always... When you have certain people, you root for them to get killed. Mm-hmm. And me, I grew up in a very dominant Mexican family, and I grew up hearing a lot of very derogatory things said to my family. So racism is something that I'm very, very against. I'm not trying to be woke here. I'm just saying I've experienced it.
No, not at all, man.
Happen. And, to watch these, members, these white supremacists get what they have coming to them, it's so fucking awesome, man. Like, as much as I hate Nazis, that's how much I love watching them get their comeuppance. You know,
Mhm.
and that whole sequence was fucking like, you talk about
Intense.
brutal. So
Like the
fucking
music, I hate in that sequence, like the hard rock thing. Like, just shut up for a second. This is really degrading my senses. But everything in regards to the editing and how the scene plays out, and also Chester Bennington's performance, like he's having this really solid glue ripping off his back and his skin, and his constant sense of terror and pain is amazing.
and he's still trying so hard
Yeah.
to reach that so he can help save her. Like,
Well, all three of them, for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about that. You know, getting the tire and then your shit ripped off and then flying. Oh, yeah. Such a gnarly scene, man.
And
Such
the
a
Rube
gnarly-
Goldberg sort of
gnarly-
death, contraption is hilarious to me. Like how one of them gets crushed and the other one gets his arms and mouth ripped off and the other one just gets plowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the
totally
way
forgot
how in the
about
next
that.
shot, how you see his body just bounce underneath the car is so funny.
Yeah. Fuck.
But
man.
no, the thing that works so well with the fishhook trap is that there is no sound. All you hear is like the ripping of the insides and the clock ticking. That's all. But one thing I need to point out about Saw 3D that is a major plot hole is as vital as the plot hole in Star Wars with the reactor shoot where they can shoot a torpedo down, how it's just convenient. In Saw 3D, no one decides to turn the on and off switch on the clocks off, which is what's powering and connecting everything in regards to the traps. There is literally an on and off fucking switch on the timer where you can see the wires are connected to the traps. Just turn them off.
Could you imagine that? Like, get me out of here. Okay.
Just flick it off. And then you've got an unlimited time. Has anyone ever thought about that? Am I the only one has noticed that the wires on the timer are connected to the traps? And that all you need
That's
to
so
do is
funny.
flick it off? It is so funny.
That's
it is
so great.
funny. I think
That's
the only one
so
does...
great. Yeah, I've never even thought about that. That's
But
so
have
funny.
you noticed the on and off switch before?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and watch now.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to really check this out.
I think the
That's
only one
Jigsaw's
that-
whole thing. Like, he wants people to be more perceptive, I guess. Like, all you had to do was turn the switch.
was be more observant and turn the switch. But in this
Fucking awesome. So, let me ask you this. When you first seen this movie, what was your reaction to Dr. Gordon's?
to be all a part of your promotional DVD.
Dude, so I fucking wigged out, dude, because I always go into these movies spoiler free. I don't want to know, and I had no fucking
Except
clue.
for Spiral.
Yeah, but there's a couple
According to
that
this
I know.
morning.
But I had no idea that Cary Elwes was even reprising his role in this film.
Well, I was very young, so I wasn't even following all that shit. I just watched it when it came out on DVD because I wasn't old enough to see it in theaters. Like, at the time, I was... Oh, God, how old would I have been? I think I was maybe 8, 9 when Saw 3D came out. I was very young. I saw for the first time when I was 6. And, you know, I was born in 2001, so that was around about 2007, or at the very end of 2007, so I would have been around about, 8, 9 years old when Saw 3D came out, and when I first saw it on DVD, I was just kind of like, oh, that's the guy from Saw. Like, from the first movie, I didn't really think about the story or anything. I was kind of just like, oh, he's going to return at some point, never thought much about it. And then I completely forgot about Saw 3D, had not seen it for years. Whereas I'd been watching like Saw 1, 2, 3, 6 and everything, just forgot about 3D and its existence. And then I rewatched it around about 2-3 years ago. And I was like, holy fuck, I forgot he was even in this. This is awesome. And then he's barely in the movie.
Yeah. But I love at the end, when he's like, no, not for you. When he takes the saw away from him. And,
Oh, I don't think so.
Are we doing spoilers on here?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
of course. The movie's been out for 11 years almost.
Okay. But to find out that, like, that's one that makes sense to me.
Mhm.
When you find out that he's been helping him the whole time.
Well, yeah,
with the medical stuff he's been
They
doing.
explore the fact that Jigsaw was the one who cleaned him up, who gave him the prosthetic foot, who helped him and was like, congratulations, Dr. Gordon. You survived.
And it's just, I don't know, man. Like, I love that they never brought up Dr. Gordon throughout the rest of it, because obviously Dr. Gordon is still doing the damn thing, so he's not going to end his career,
No. Although
for him
I
to
do
just
question
be
whatever happened to, his daughter and wife.
right.
What happened to them?
They went on Con Air probably.
I mean, yeah, Patricia, what is her name? Monica Potter was in Con Air as Nicolas Cage's wife. I'm gonna tag you ribbon around the yellow oak tree, cause this boy's coming home to his ladies forever.
I got a picture of you. I got a picture of you too. All right.
I got you this for your birthday. Sorry, it's a little dirty.
I can't lie, dude. I fucking love Con Air.
So do I.
Con
It's a
Air.
guilty
that
pleasure
movie's
for sure, but it's
so
great.
much fun. So much fucking
Put
fun.
the bunny
whole cast is
back
great.
in the box. Well, there's nothing more I wouldn't love than to put a bullet in the head of one of these pigs. Yeah.
One more move and the bunny dies. Yeah,
One
dude.
more move and the buddy gets it.
Yes, dude. I love Con Air, man. When you were older and you were able to see Dr. Gordon was actually a part of the whole thing, which is crazy to me because every Saw movie from 1 to the upcoming Spiral I've seen in the theater. This is it's something that I've seen them all. What was your initial reaction to seeing that Dr. Gordon had been a part of it the whole time?
When I was older and I noticed it and really paid attention.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, I wasn't really that shocked because it kind of made sense. I was thinking throughout every film of like, how would he know how to put the key behind their eye? How would he know how to sew their mouths and eyes shut? How would he have the materials? And then when they did it with Dr. Gordon, that kind of cleared it up, but also provided more questions in regards to what happened to Allison and his daughter and everything.
Right. Well, so, I'm sure that...
I'm sure they're happily together. Allison,
Gotta be.
She divorced him and left for Cameron Poe.
Well, see, and another thing about Saw 3D, the only thing that's ever really bothered me, who are the pigs with Dr. Gordon?
Oh, I know who they are. That's actually revealed in the director's commentary.
Who is it?
It's Ryan and Brad from the opening scene of the film who are a part of the public execution trap.
The beginning?
Yep.
Really?
They actually help Dr. Gordon and everything, and they help him, which gives me the idea that I think that Spiral is going to be a cult. Not one killer, but a cult of past victims.
Oh, okay.
So we might get Corbett, who is Jeff's daughter, because remember what Amanda said, or what the other people said, don't trust the man who saves you.
Don't trust the man that, yeah.
In regards to Daniel Matthews, because of who his father was and what happened, it would make sense. I also think that Dr. Gordon, and then Brad and Ryan. It would make sense for them to return in a form of cult to follow on for... Because just think, all these people have been affected by dirty cops, Brad and Ryan, because of the stuff that they were doing for Dina. In regards to Dr. Gordon with Detective Tappan Singh. In regards to Daniel Matthews, who his father was. And then Corbett, because of who Hoffman was, who saved her.
Right.
It would make a lot of sense for the motive.
I wonder if they are going to end up tying these. Obviously, it's a Jigsaw copycat, so it would have to be, someone that was really, really up on who Jigsaw was.
Mm-hmm. It would need to be that, and I don't see them bringing in the whole thing from Jigsaw of jigsawIsAwesome.com again.
We don't even got to talk about Jigsaw.
JigsawRules.com.
The way that you feel about Saw 3D is how I feel about Jigsaw.
And the way that you feel about Saw 3D is how I feel about Jigsaw.
Right.
It's like a vice versa situation.
It really is, man, because I can't stand Jigsaw. Like, I was so bummed leaving the theater after that. It was just a really bummer experience for me. It's not even that it's a bad film, but just, to me, I hold the Saw franchise so high, and I really think that if Saw would have been...
And as a film that came out 7 years later, it did not even warrant the reason for this series to make a return.
No.
Which is what I think Spiral's going to do, because we've already got early talks of Saw 10, and we've already got early talks of the Saw TV series, which...
TV show?
Yes.
I would love it. I love the horror TV shows that have been... I loved Mr. Mercedes.
Mm-hmm. Hellraiser got cancelled. Oh, really? Oh, The Purge, okay.
I liked the Purge TV show.
I never saw it. The Mist was good.
TV show. I like that one.
The Mist was good. The Hellraiser series got cancelled, but I am excited for the Child's Play one just labeled Chucky.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool. And with Don Mancini returning and everything as well as a producer and all that sort of stuff, and then the guy who played Danny is returning as well. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, and you got Andy Barclay.
Oh, sorry, Andy.
Sister.
Danny? Where did I get that from? Andy Barclay. Sorry, my bad.
You were thinking about The Shining, man.
Yeah, I was, I think, actually.
But yeah, you got Andy coming back, Alex Vincent.
Yeah.
Then the sisters coming back, Alex.
Yeah.
Or not Alex. What's her name in the show?
Oh, the one who's, what's his name's daughter?
Yeah, his adopted sister. And then Devin Sawa's in it.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm totally excited for Chucky.
Have you seen?
I love the Child's Play remake. You know, so I love.
I liked it too.
I think I love the idea of two different Chucky universes going at once. Really,
which is, I think, something that they could very well do with Saw, if they pull it off. Like, the TV series is a different universe from the movies, which I honestly would not be against, especially if the series is actually like a more Dr. Gordon after Saw 3D sort of thing. That would be interesting.
Fuck yeah, it would be.
And it would tie up a lot of loose ends as well. And what he's really been involved with. Even if there are no traps or anything, I would not care if it was like a Dr. Gordon TV series. I would love that.
Yeah. And they haven't announced any cast yet, so it's very
it's possible. Only in very early talk. It's not even in the writing stages yet. It's in the very early pre-production, like, you know, storyboarding stage.
Right.
But back to Saw 3D. God, literally everything is more interesting than this movie. But Saw 3D is a movie that I don't like at all, but there are things about it I really like, such as the cool man skater boy John Kramer. What is it? I think that the woman who plays Joyce actually does a surprisingly good job in the movie for what she has. I actually like the idea of the teeth code scene. Like, although it's very poorly edited, I hate the editing in this movie. Holy fuck, it's so obnoxious. But in concept, that's a really cool scene. I hate the hanging trap. That is so fucking lame, especially the really choppily frame rate sort of, you know, CG 3D key when it falls down.
That's what I was just gonna say. If the guy's fucking blindfolded, why are you gonna throw a key to him?
Not only that, wouldn't it make more sense for you to jump over? You can see you have more of a footing and you have two hands.
Right. Yeah, like I said, it's not a great movie by any stretch, but I honestly think the biggest thing about it that brought it up to me was how gruesome the traps were, even though they were few and far between. John Kramer obviously was great. Finally seeing the reverse bear trap come into play and all the Dr. Gordon stuff. Like, those things all hit me in a very, very good spot for where, and going into it, I thought this was going to be the end. And I was like, wow, that's a great way to end it with Dr. Gordon, you know, ending it where it began, you know. I love that idea.
What do you think about the scene? We talked about what we think about dream sequences when we did the Saw thing with the My First Horror Movie. Afterwards, we briefly talked about the dream stuff in horror movies. What do you think about the dream sequence in Saw 3D with Jill?
I hate it.
It was a way for them.
It was a way for them to sexualize Jill Tuck.
Betsy Russell in that fucking nightgown, and then, you know, when she gets cut in half, you do see her fucking tit.
Yeah. That's all it was. That was literally what it was. For her to dream that, you know, like, for one, if you're watching it from her point of view, she's not going to watch herself blow up into pieces and see her titty hanging out. No. You know, it was a way for them to perv up the movie a little bit. And everybody that knows me knows I've never, even as a kid, been a fan of the over-sexualization of horror film. It's just not something I've ever really been into. Especially now as a 35-year-old father of two young girls, the sexualizing women in horror films. Now, please don't misconstrue that I'm saying that horror as a genre does that, because horror gave us the final girl. Horror has always, in the 70s, been a way for women to kick the living dog shit out of men.
Like, you've got, what's her name? Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. You've got, what's her name as Nancy Thompson. You've literally got, what's her name in, what is it, Scream.
Yeah, Neve Campbell.
Neve Campbell as Sydney, yeah. Like Sydney Prescott. You've got so many things.
Look at
Friday
Ripley,
the 13th
man.
even did the same thing. Yeah, Ripley from Alien.
Alien. You know,
You've got
horror was ahead of its time in making women
strong
the final girl
characters and strong leads and final characters. They
don't
always in
need
the forefront had them because it was empowering and it worked so well, more than it would for a man. And I actually have always loved how it's always the final girl situation, which is the biggest problem about the Halloween sequels, because later on, even in Resurrection, it goes from being the final girl to the final man with like Busta Rhymes and whatever the other person's name is, and then killing Laurie straight off at the very beginning. Like, that doesn't make sense. Whereas at least, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Dream Warriors waited till the end of that movie to kill off Nancy.
I love them killing off Nancy. I loved it.
That's because there is an arc leading into that movie to why it works.
Yes.
Whereas Resurrection just has something so fucking shoehorned in, which is something I'm worried about with Scream 5 with, Sidney Prescott. But at the same time, I'm looking at movies like Saw and everything. It's never been about the final... No, it has actually, a majority of the time, been about the final girl. In Saw 1, there's a difference there because it was Adam and Dr. Gordon. In Saw 2, it is Daniel and Amanda. Saw 3, it's Lynn and Jeff. Saw 4, no, because that was more of a rig situation. Yeah. Saw 5, you've got old mate who burns himself and, the real estate agent. Saw 6 is literally the mother and her son, who are technically the final people who make that final decision. Saw 3D...
Fucking Diary of a Wimpy Kid, bro!
Yeah, I know! Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, Roderick didn't fuck around. He said, I can do it. Bam!
He was in Saw before he was in Diary of a Wimpy Kid as Greg Heffley's brother.
Yeah, man. And that was a great kill, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my... When you watch the acid get pumped into him, and I just, that's again, we're talking about how realistic Saw is. I would have killed him if he was the reason my dad died.
I would have too. I would have been like, nah, no fucking sympathy, bitch.
Yep. She's like, I can't do it. He's like, bitch, I can. Wham! Hits him with it, dude. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Saw 6, I think, is actually the third best or second best Saw movie.
With 6?
Yeah.
I think that's... I don't want to give away too much, so I'm about to do a ranking. But it's about probably my 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in the 4th area.
Okay.
That's where it would be for me.
I've just loved the entire, thing of, the traps all mean something towards his organization. And his policies that he has in place, which is so fascinating to me. And also, you do start to care about William Easton as a character throughout the series, and also the backstory of John Kramer and what's been going on is really cool, especially the development of the Hoffman character. Whereas Saw 3D had none of that besides the one scene of him warning Bobby Dagan.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it had.
And that's it's hard to say that you didn't have enough John Kramer in a movie where he's been dead for 4 movies. But obviously John Kramer carried a lot of these later movies with the exception of 6.
Well, they literally say on set, in production videos and everything, there were things that were happening, but John Kramer and, Tobin Bell would be like, no, that's not what my character would do, and he'd give alternatives, and they're like, oh yeah, that is better. Then they incorporate that into the film instead for his character, and the traps and everything even. Even Tobin Bell, just like Jigsaw, would have alternatives to make the traps better, because the rack trap from Saw 3 was never initially the twisting arms. The contraption didn't work and they had to do a rewrite and rebuild because the original idea was a folding table.
Okay.
Where it was meant to fold back and snap his back. Whereas then, Tobin Bell was like, what if it was the same design except it was twisting his limbs instead? And that's exactly what we got in the film.
They're both gnarly. You're watching that? It's weird. I watch that, but at the same time, I'm like, kill my kid, bro.
Yeah.
Life sucks.
You get what you get. That's the thing. Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all have things to love about the traps that make them stand out. Whereas Saw 3D, I'm like, You have one where a guy is in a car and he kind of just gets flung out the window and he's a neo-Nazi. You've got one in public, which is so fucking stupid. You've got the fishhook trap, which stands out really well, but then the one of just the prongs going into the woman's eyes and mouth, and then the stupid trap of the hanging, and then the Gatling gun, and then the dome fire. Like, the only other trap in this movie that stands out is a trap we've seen in Saw 1 and Saw 6. And that's the reverse bear trap, which then comes to a final result, and we finally see it in action in all its glorious fashion with shitty pink blood.
Yeah.
Which looks awful.
It does. It does.
I hate
really...
the pink blood. I hate the cheap look of this movie. Even the cinematography is so bad. And the oversaturated look of this movie makes it look made for TV. And the direction and the cinematography is just not great for that reason.
So on a ranking, are we ranking 1 to 10? How are we doing a ranking of it?
I rate it on a rating scale of like A to F, like A+ to F.
Okay. So what is your ranking of Saw 3D?
My final verdict would be the fact that there are good ideas within the film, such as the whole Bobby Dagen thing, the warning of Jigsaw and everything, but John Kramer does not shine as much as he does in other movies, even though he is the best thing. There's one or two traps in this that are cool, such as the reverse bear trap in its final form, as well as the fishhook trap. But the rest of the movie, although I love Chester Bennington's performance, that trap is still incredibly lame even to the end result. In comparison to other movies, it doesn't have the same effect. Even though it fixes a few things narratively speaking, it creates even more plot holes for the series that make it very hard to watch on a genuine enjoyment status to like put the story and the narrative together for a finale. I love the ending of that game over and Hoffman and being trapped inside. That is awesome, and I like to believe he's dead for that reason. But at the same time, everything else in this movie is just a mess, from the writing, the dialogue, the direction, the very cheap look of it, and just the unbelievable traps and situations, and the whole slasher aspect behind it, I just find bullshit. It takes away a lot of enjoyment for Saw. Although this is a hilarious watch, I have a love-hate relationship, it is without a doubt the worst Saw movie to date, personally. And on my rating scale, honestly, it might seem a bit harsh because there are things I enjoy, but those are in concept rather than execution and end result. So with all that said, I'm going to give Saw 3D a D-. Mainly because there are a few things in concept that are good, and a few of the traps are interesting, but that's about it.
Right. See, I give it a C-. Like I said, it's right in the... It's in the lower third for me, but... It at least had, if you take out Dr. Gordon, it falls. It falls dramatically.
Cary Elwes did a really good job, and I do like the fact that they bookended it as well, where it's like beginning and end. It's a bookend sort of thing for his character.
Yeah. And I loved, obviously, like seeing the reverse bear trap finally come into play. You know, even though we didn't talk about it much, watching Bobby struggle to put those hooks in his pecs and they end up ripping, like, fuck that guy, you know, like,
and if he was more observant, he would have noticed all he had to do was step on the hooks and hoist himself up that way. Or the jackass didn't realize that what was keeping him together was pulling it rather than this. Get yourself a little higher and then try to fucking plug it in with less restraint, you dickhead.
Yeah, like, you had this wonderful woman die for no reason because
and
this
you
guy's
get to walk out and live.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's definitely a lot to hate about it, but my son, who is a huge Saw fan, huge, probably more so than myself, has this at the bottom as well.
Okay.
This is his least favorite, and he talks shit on me all the time because he's like, well, we'll get in an argument about something. He'll be like, well, at least I don't think Saw 3D was good. Fuck you, dude.
That's the best argument to hold over anyone's head.
Right. So that's how I feel about it. I'm going to go C-. And it was, middle of the road, bottom third. But there are things about it that I genuinely enjoy. Like the Dr. Gordon story is great. Just seeing him back. I got so excited in the theater when I seen him back. So I think that's a big thing about it. But the 3D effects don't hold up, even in the 2D version. But John Kramer is just... His warning at that table always stuck with me.
Yeah, it's a very, very good scene in hindsight. But either way, Ken, Thank you so much for joining me, man. I had such a good time talking Saw 3D with you. We may have opposing opinions in a slight aspect, but hey, it's always a good discussion, man. It's great having you on here, man. Where can everyone find you?
Well, that's the best thing about horror is we can watch it and have completely different opinions and still be completely respectful of each other because we know how passionate we are about what we do. For those of you that don't know, you can follow me on YouTube, just youtube.com/Sledgehammer Horror. Check out my interview with Patrick as well as some of the other people talking about the first horror movie they watched and how it affected them.
He's had sorry to cut you off there, man, but Ken has actually had podcasts with James A. Janice and Chelsea Rebecca from Dead Meat, as well as Bill Moseley as well, which you know from a shit ton of horror movies. So please go check him out and everything. He's had some great actors, some great guests and everything, and including myself, probably one of the worst here compared to some other people.
But man, it was a blast. I was so excited when you agreed to come on, man. I reached out to you because I was a fan, and then
thank you.
To have you come on was super awesome. It's something I still appreciate to this day. And it's just, Instagram, just Sledgehammer Horror, Twitter, at Sledgehammer Horror, HOR, Facebook, Sledgehammer Horror. Just check it out. We have a short film that'll be coming out soon. And, some cool things happening in the future, so I'm very excited about them.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for jumping on once again. And ever since our conversation on the podcast, we've actually become very close personal friends as well. So sad that we live so far away. Would have loved to see Spiral with you.
Would have been a blast. But this won't be the last time you see us two together. You'll be seeing us together here soon.
Oh, yeah. Again. Oh, yeah. Whether it's on Ken's channel and at my channel and everything, we will be talking a lot. But guys, thank you so much for joining us for our review of Saw 3D, the final chapter. Make sure you go click those annotations and links down in the description below to Ken's social media links and YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go check those out. Give him all the support in the world. Please, it would mean not just a lot to me, but definitely a lot to Ken. He deserves a lot more. Great channel, great stuff, great podcast, by the way. Make sure you check out his My First Horror Movie podcast whenever they drop with all different types of guests. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Make sure to follow me on the social medias at Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Twitch to watch my live streams and keep up to date with the content coming to the channel. Do be sure to click the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when your videos are up every single week. Do be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.